Hey everybody, it's Lindsay with Rise Up Nutrition, and I'm here today with one of my clients, Sarah, who's just seen an amazing transformation over the last couple of weeks that we've been working together. She's a member of the Female Athlete System of Transformation. And actually, let's just start there because we were just kind of talking about it before I hit record here. But it's a Female Athlete System of Transformation. And I was wondering, Sarah, if you could tell us a little bit about your athletic background or your not athletic background.
I'm not necessarily the perfect mold that you would normally work with saying that like I'm an athlete because I'm not actually an athlete. I've never actually been in a sport or like a team. I was on cross country for my first year, my senior year of high school, actually. That was my only ever team I was ever on for one season. So I don't necessarily resonate myself as an athlete, but I did train hard. I tried to do more of like the bodybuilding lifestyle. I was a dancer when I was little, and I was a Zumba instructor at one point when I did start getting into the fitness world. So yeah, I'm not necessarily an athlete. I do love to work out for me, but I now know what a difference that is going through this transformation, that it should be a lifestyle. It shouldn't be something to do just to kind of change yourself. It should be part of your life, not.
Yeah, and I really wanted to bring that up right away because athletes definitely struggle with disordered eating and disordered like thoughts and attitudes around food. But quite frankly, just a lot of women and a lot of girls struggle with it. And you were somebody that maybe didn't resonate with the term athlete, but you were still hitting the gym really hard. You were getting into that kind of like bodybuilding style of like hitting the gym 5 days a week, trying to diet in a way that would like mold you into some sort of ideal that you were aiming for. And I feel like, it was exercise was a passion of yours. And that's why you were such a great fit for this program too, was to how can you create a lifestyle that you're going to be healthy, but where exercise is also like, if it's something that you're passionate about, where you can balance that and be healthy with that too.
Right. I was actually only lifting 3 times a week, but it was at least an hour. I loved trying to up my weight every single time, whether or not like I probably should have. But I also have like a really unique job that's very active.
Yeah.
So, I stage furniture and not everybody is lifting up power sofas every day versus if you're just a secretary sitting and then working out. And I always used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So before my stressful day at work, I was already stressing out my body with less sleep, and I was eating barely nothing. My fuel around pre and post was not sufficient for me to even go into my workday. So I was already restricting before my mind could even think that I was awake.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So take me back to life before the female athlete system of transformation. What were some of the things that you were doing? You just mentioned some restriction, but what were some of the things that you were doing that really made you realize like this isn't healthy or that I need help?
Oh my God, where do I begin? So I was tracking every single meal. I was weighing out everything. Whether it be actual food, liquid food, whatever. I was counting down the minutes to when I could eat again. Like my watch, I constantly looked at it. It's like one of those things like, oh, at least 10 minutes had to have gone by, but it's like, okay, it was 30 seconds. I couldn't have anybody make any food for me. I always planned all my meals out like the day before, and I could have pushed it out like 3 days. So I would have known what I was eating from the time I woke up, from the time I went to bed for the next 3 days. And if anybody tried to break that in some sort of way, I couldn't do it. I'd panic. So I had no spontaneity. So many food rules, so many things that I labeled good, bad. It also affected my relationships with whether it was my friends, my mom, my husband. I mean, the list could go on. I was miserable.
Yeah, I feel like everything you just listed, to me, the first thing that was coming to mind is like, how much time did you spend counting and tracking and planning?
Like I said, I'm going back to school for my master's degree. And there was a couple of days where I'm like, okay, I need to sit down. I need to focus. I need to do my homework. But in order for me to focus, I had to know that my meals were good for the next day. And there was days where it just wouldn't fit right And I'd be sitting at my computer for over an hour trying to get myself to feel okay with what I had written down or what I had planned before I could even go to homework. And by the time I went to homework, I was so exhausted. And then I'd look at the clock and be like, I just wasted an hour at least.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, it was awful.
So it's affecting your schoolwork. You mentioned too, like affecting your concentration, affecting your relationships. Yeah. And how long was this going on for?
So I was trying to think back, and weirdly enough, my boss from my previous job actually kind of hinted at me that, hey, Sarah, is this something a little bit more than you just being picky? Because I would always just say, oh, I'm picky. I'm just picky. I like to be healthy. I'm picky. And I want to say that was maybe 5 years ago that I really I don't ever like to say labeled myself, but really was like, the light bulb kind of turned on, like, oh, maybe this is. And when I sort of diagnosed myself with orthorexia. So before that, though, I take it all the way back. I actually started dieting when I was 16.
Yeah.
And because I wanted to fit in, peer pressure of high school and like all that kind of stuff. Started to get complimented by weight loss. And, just a domino effect from there. I actually lost my period at 16 as well. Went on birth control because, that's the thing to fix everything, the magical pill,
Yeah.
And got my period back, so I thought everything was great. And I was on that for 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
So thought everything was good. I obviously knew there was still an issue because, like I said, I was miserable. I was always cold.
Yeah.
My mom started to say, Sarah, you're way too thin. People were noticing, but kind of like not saying it to my face because they like, how do you bring that kind of stuff up, So they would tell my mom, who then trickled it to me.
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't have my period when I came off of birth control after I got married. Hair loss, low temperature, low blood pressure, gut issues beyond belief. I've went to the gastroenterologist for every single issue you possibly could think of. Every test was done. Like I said,
Sorry to cut you off, but that's so important. I meet so many people who are struggling with stomach issues. They're going to doctor after doctor after doctor, trying to diagnose what stomach issue do I have, where I'm having, diarrhea, constipation, bloating, just pain, acid reflux. And, we're going to get to this soon, but so much of that, it has nothing to do with anything that's wrong with you. It just has to do with the state of health in your body and if you're fueling it right.
Right. Well, and I mean, I've always had gut issues, but I've also had anxiety disorder since I was 5. So, your gut is your second brain. And I know there's always going to be some underlying issues because like I have anxiety and that's not leaving me, but there's a way that I can control it to the severity of. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I've been also diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome, but I know, especially now working with you, I kind of know some of those foods that trigger me, and not necessarily to avoid it, but to find alternatives, to enjoy different things, to now feel comfortable enough to venture out of my safe zone and eat things that truly are good for my body, because everything's good for your body. But just getting back to, I was saying that so after I got married, I decided, this is time to get off of birth control. I've been on it way too long. Like, we're married now. We knew we wanted kids since the day we were dating. So it was just time to get off of it. And I knew from a history of amenorrhea that I was kind of scared that it would happen again, but I didn't know now that I was older if anything would progress. So I got off of it. Lo and behold, nothing happened. My gynecologist didn't seem to be worried at all. And then I decided to dig in a little bit more, found No Period Now What, the book, read it, did my own research, diagnosed myself with HA, and then I actually found you from a podcast about HA. So the rest was history.
Yeah. So, and just for clarification too, like, you kind of, when we met, you had all those other issues you were just talking about, the stress around food, the anxiety, wasted time, just calorie counting, all of that. But your number one goal was get my period back. I want to be a mama.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was your number one goal. And, but it's so cool, as we just talked about, or I guess we're going to get to talking about, how much getting your period back also changed the rest of your life.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah, so let's just fast forward. Did you get your period back?
I sure did.
So, and well, I know you're on birth control for
Yeah.
9 years, but how long since being off birth control?
Ooh, I haven't really thought about it like that. So let's see, I think I was off of birth control about a year or so before I met you. And then it took me 1 year, 1 month, and 4 days from then. Well, I guess
Yeah.
since I committed to recovery when I found no period, now what? It was a year. And
Yeah.
then within the 12 weeks with you, I saw the most progression that led me to
Yeah.
get my period. So because I knew where I needed to go, but I couldn't do it alone. And I needed that reassurance. And like just that push, knowing like, yeah, you're doing the right thing. And then, we found the supplements I needed and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
which really just gave me that extra urge. And
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is so important because for those of you who are listening to this and resonate with Sarah with not having a period and maybe even thinking about like fertility and that urgency for that, she's referencing a wonderful book called No Period, Now What? It's got your answers in there. It's an amazing book. But the issue was even, what I find a lot with clients that I work with, it's not about your lack of knowledge. You know what you need to do. It's lack of implementation and lack of doing it. And that's what we did over the last 12 weeks is I pushed you to do it. At least I think that's what I did. That's what I tried to do. We worked together one-on-one, having that accountability, having somebody to push you, having someone when you have those moments of doubt or fearfulness to have somebody there to keep you going on the path in the direction that you need to be at. So I think from the beginning, you did, like you said, you did a lot of your own research. You kind of self-diagnosed, you self-identified, but you couldn't do it alone. And I think that was a really big thing for you was to do this journey with somebody so that you weren't alone.
absolutely. And I remember telling you from the beginning, I was like, especially with my anxiety and, A-type personality, I just always need reassurance. And I've always been that way, no matter what it's about. Whether it was what were my plans for the day or, the decisions I'm making for school or anything, just like kind of like, or just a conversation with my husband. Well, does that sound okay? Are you sure that's all right? Like just always that reassurance. And I needed that. I had come from other nutritionists, trainers, because, I wanted to do it the quote unquote right way.
Mm-hmm.
But there is no right way to recovery. So
Very true.
yeah, that didn't go very well. So
What would you say in your past experiences working with trainers and dietitians that didn't go very well versus like this time where I think, you found the success that you were looking for? What were some of the big differences or why do you think this time was successful?
before I really thought I had an eating disorder, I was trying to work with trainers, knowing I needed to gain weight. I wanted to gain muscle. But when I worked with trainers, I was so mentally distraught that I couldn't follow their plans. I'd panic. I remember trying to follow this new meal plan that they gave me, and I almost passed out at work because I was like hyperventilating from being so anxious.
Wow.
So he actually gave up on me. He said, "Sarah, you need to do some work before I can continue to work with you." He's like, "I'm not going to charge you anything for cancellation, but he kind of said like, you need help pretty much." So then I went to an actual, on top of my like eating disorder therapist. I've always had her. She's awesome. But like on the nutritionist side, the last nutritionist I was with, we really just didn't click.
Yeah.
And, I'm just to keep everything like kind of under wraps.
Yeah.
Just communication wasn't there. Professionalism wasn't there. She put me on a meal plan, and I'm not saying that's a bad idea, but for what state I was in, I get so fixated on numbers that wasn't good for me. And she noticed that I wasn't progressing, but didn't really change anything to try anything else to get me there. So just didn't end well.
Yeah.
So then I was kind of on my own again, but I knew I couldn't be on my own.
Yeah.
I was getting extremely frustrated. And at this point, I was like, I'm ready to commit. I'm sick of feeling like this. I kind of just got to that push point. And I feel like in order to successfully get through recovery, you have to get to that point, because no matter how many times people are going to tell you like you need help, you're not going to hear them. You're going to just, yeah, you know? So until you really are like, I need help, is it really achievable? And I think that's like when I found you, I was like at my breaking point. And even you said, you're like, this is 12 weeks, you got to commit. Also, I'm financing it myself. So that also gives you a little bit of an urge to get it done.
Yeah.
And, you know, my husband and I want kids, and we're going on 3 years of marriage, and that's our biggest goal right now. And I was like, well, you know what? I need to be a little selfish right now then.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to get over this because I want to have a healthy pregnancy and not be in this mindset.
Yeah. Oh man, so many things you just said that I kind of want to hit on. Yeah, I think it's really important what you said about just finding, you know, a dietitian that's going to fit with you too, because you know, all of us dietitians, we've all had the same, you know, schooling and training, but just finding somebody that vibes with you. And, you know, for people watching this too, this is why, you know, Sarah, we had like 2 phone calls, you know, just consultation calls before even starting working together, because I wanted to make sure we were that good fit. And if I wasn't going to be that fit, and I've done this for other clients, if I'm not that fit, I'm going to send you to someone else who I think can help you, because you do need to find somebody with a style, a method, just that vibe that's going to work for you. You know, my approach for sure is like, trust me, I can make meal plans easy peasy, but I'm going to give you what you need. And that was something we identified right away. I was like, girl, no more.
Rip it up.
Rip it up. Or delete it because you had it on an Excel file. Delete, trash can, smash the computer, whatever it's going to take. So we definitely took the no meal plan approach for you. We actually have learned a lot about intuitive eating. And I know too, with the fact that you were struggling kind of with disordered eating for quite a few years, you had some hesitancies with intuitive eating, because I think you had heard, you know, like, you can't do intuitive eating while you're in recovery. And I kind of kept pushing you to keep trying. So where are you at now with intuitive eating?
I can definitely say I've had more quote unquote intuitive days lately. Like you said, especially with an A-type personality, we already know so much. I know what's going to fuel me best, and I know, you know, what's a treat, but like they're all good. So I do have days where I'm like, just kind of sit back. I'm like, okay, I just check myself. Well, did you have enough in this meal that hit the carbs, the fat, the protein, and just make a well-rounded peace sign plate, as what you told us. And it really does help give you a visualization. And so now I'm able to look at, okay, well, I had breakfast, you know, was it well-rounded? Well, am I hungry an hour later? Okay, well, what did I have this morning that maybe didn't get me to 3 hours later? So I have been able to be a little bit more intuitive lately, especially knowing how much it takes for me to gain. I've realized that just eating and enjoying those extra condiments and a bite of this here and a bite of that there that people deem is so bad, it's like, no, you can do that. I've never been this intuitive. Granted, there's days that I can do better, but you know, it's a day in progress. Every day is a new journey. So, you know, I always tell myself, I didn't develop an eating disorder in a year, and it's not going to be perfect in a year, but I never thought that I'd be to this point where I'm just enjoying life again, and I'm laughing more. And, you know, we just ordered pizza the other day and it was great, and I just didn't think twice about it.
Amazing.
And there was no restriction around that. You know, there was no food rules around that where, oh my God, I had cheese or I had bread, I can't have it again that day. No, I can. And I'm not having pizza every day. So if I double up, I double up.
I love that. If I double up, I double up. That's awesome. No, I love that. So much like, I think too, when people hear intuitive eating, they get overwhelmed. Like, I'm just supposed to eat what I want. Well, what do I want? How do I know? And so it sounds like you've really, through this process, we found almost more of like a system for you that, you know, of like, okay, well, this is how I'm going to make a meal. And, you know, checks and balances, and just reassess, like check in on my hunger levels, and okay, we're spontaneously ordering something great. You can deal with that, and you can not just deal with it, you can enjoy it. Like you just said that, I mean, that really is freedom too.
Or even going back to how I said that I used to plan all my meals in advance, and then if something happened, I'd literally panic. just the other day, I realized that I had something planned for me and my husband, and one of the ingredients went bad. So quickly enough, I had to figure out something else for dinner, and I made it work.
Yeah.
And, I knew where I needed that meal to sit with my macronutrient ratio, and I just found alternatives to create that same ratio. So I've never been able to do that before.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Now, I also want to hit on, because, you did mention, that you were underweight, and this definitely played a role in, you mentioned you had female athlete triad diagnosed in high school, you have had hypothalamic amenorrhea, and you were underweight. So this process did include weight gain for you. So let's talk about that a little bit, because that was probably scary, right?
That's an understatement. Yeah. And I think that honestly was the biggest thing to even starting recovery, because I knew that had to happen. I mean, my wedding day was the lowest weight I had ever been. Well, what kind of day is that to celebrate when you can't enjoy it because of all the other circumstances? So I knew that was a priority. And that's terrifying. I mean, no woman wants to step on a scale and just see it keep going up. But my therapist always told me, well, Sarah, it's weight that should have never been lost. So I'm really only gaining the weight back just to be me. And I've always told you, like, I'm a Sarah size Sarah, and that is what I was trying to get to. So it's not that I had to keep gaining and gaining and gaining and gaining, because it kind of did plateau. But I'm not going to say it was easy, because it wasn't.
Yeah.
But I honestly, as I kept gaining, it almost started to get easier, because you're just like, what's 5 more pounds if people can't even recognize it already? So it got a lot easier for it. Like, I actually started like kind of rejoicing the weight gain at one point, because I was like, I'm that much closer to my goal, because I never thought I'd even get this far. To this day, it's still not easy. I have a new body. I have to come across the point where I don't fit in some of my clothes anymore, but I love to go shopping. So I guess that's an opportunity. But
on the bright side.
And no matter what size you are, you're going to have a body image days. I have good days and I have bad days, and it's something I'm still getting used to, but I just know that I don't want to go back to where I was. So if this is where I have to be, this is where I have to be. And I mean, even just the other day, we had a group conversation about, this is where I am right now. Is this my forever body? No, because my goal is to have a baby. Well, what's going to happen when that happens? There's a lot more weight gain right there, so I might as well get used to it.
Yeah.
So is it going to be hard? Yeah. It's a hard mental battle, I think, for anyone. I don't care what people say. Whether you're losing or gaining, it's a hard mental battle.
It is. Now here's the question. Is it worth it? No.
Well, the weight gain is.
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, the weight loss or like the mental battle about gaining or losing is not worth it. But gaining the weight was 100% worth it.
Yeah. Worth it to achieve your goal. And but I think so much more too. Like I said, you came into this being like, my goal is to get my period back.
Yeah.
But I think you got so much more back than that.
Absolutely. And I remember having like almost a mental breakdown when it was nearing our end of our 12 weeks. And I was like, there's no guarantee that I would have recovered my period, but I was like, I had just such a mental goal for myself. Like, I wanted to do it. And then like 2-3 weeks ago it happened, and I'm like, yay! It happened. So it was like, it's like getting an A on that paper, But you did all this studying, you put all the work into it, and then you got the grade that you wanted. It was exciting.
Yeah. Yes. So exciting. And yeah, you can't, we can never put a timeline on our bodies. So yeah, I have a 12-week program. Can't guarantee that you'll get your period back in 12 weeks, but I can guarantee that we're going to push you in doing the things you need to do to get there. And it was pretty just really amazing timing for you to kind of finish with that.
Exactly. Because I started real recovery probably January of 19.
Yeah.
And so I was, more so in quasi recovery.
Yeah.
Till about 12 weeks ago. So
yeah,
it was kind of, I was almost a year in, and almost 9 months from when I froze my gym account. And I was just so ready to go back to the gym, so ready to give up, and kind of just what I needed.
Yeah, I like how you just mentioned for a year, like you started your recovery journey, but in quasi recovery. Like just in this limbo of like, okay, I've gained some weight, I've made some changes, but my body still isn't showing the true sign of recovery, which for you was the resumption of your menstrual cycle, but and other little things too, right? Like hair and like just skin glowing, just like other things like that too, physically. So I think that's where a lot of people do give up, is when they've put in a lot of effort, but they don't yet see the result that you have now. So I'm curious, what would you say to all those people who are in that quasi recovery, who have put in a significant amount of effort, whatever stage of their recovery they're in, but they're not there yet?
Well, I would definitely say that I would never do it differently, I guess. I know it took me a long time, but with the way I know myself, and I know that if I were to have just jumped in, I would have given up really quick and I would still be that girl I was a couple years ago. So I guess I would like to tell people that, like, even if it does take a long time, it's worth every day because you have so much longer in life to live. And if you take the time to commit, no matter what that length is, it'll be worth it because you get to look forward to that many more years ahead of you in the right mindset. Because I've seen so many people jump in and they don't give themselves enough time to mentally heal as well as physically and emotionally. So they end up relapsing or they just break it so quick. And honestly, I think having a longer recovery really helped me with that. And I'm not saying that you can't have a quick recovery, but for me, that wasn't possible because especially with my high anxiety, I don't like change. Change is extremely hard for me. So being able to slowly change it, slowly transition, I was able to succeed.
Yeah.
So no, I guess I would just like to sum it up as don't give up. As long as you're ready to recover and you're committed to it, it will happen. You just got to give it the chance. I mean, even if you're in a weight loss phase, it shouldn't happen overnight either.
Yeah.
So no matter what stage you're in, it should take time, I guess.
Yeah, no, I even like how you just compared that to even a weight loss phase. Like, I think just the comparison that your body takes time to change. And so much of that has to do with if you are mentally prepared and committed to doing the actions to elicit those changes. So it takes time. Absolutely. Whatever your goals are, it's going to take time. And if you never give up on yourself, you're going to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to find the
You
way
always win.
you got to find the way that works for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to be considered strong. I always wanted to lift and be strong and be strong. You know, that was my word.
Yeah.
And ever since I had froze my gym account and I committed to recovery, I cannot tell you how many times I've been told I'm strong. So strong can look different on everyone.
Yeah, there's so many other ways to show strength than just lifting weights.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful.
I just think that the world around us is just so diet culture. And that's kind of really what I've taken away from this whole journey of the last 2 years, I guess. Diet culture is just a brainwash. We're all victims. So really it's just opened my eyes to how much nonsense is around us and how much we can't look in too deep. Because even social media, it's a highlight reel. It doesn't show you really what they're going through. My life would probably look perfect on Instagram too. Hell if not. So I just think that we all deserve the life we were intended to have. It's not really what society told us is right. Because guess what? Next month, keto's going to be told that it's bad. Or, intuitive eating is going to be the praised diet. Or, so give it a year. It's all going to change. So do what's good for you right now.
Yes. Yeah. So I love how you said we're all kind of victims of diet culture. But we can't just keep playing the victim either. We need to take ownership of ourselves and live the life you want, live the life that you were intended to live. And I think going back to what you said before too, is throughout this process, even with gaining weight, you said with every, as you continued to gain weight, it almost got easier because you were transitioning, you were finding yourself again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fun. You were having more laughs with your husband, and
my personality's back.
But yeah, I think too, going back to the weight gain thing, it's not easy, but it's going to be worth it because you find yourself along the way. You're not just gaining weight, you're gaining food freedom. You're gaining mental strength and resiliency. You're gaining your personality. You're gaining memories. Like you are gaining so much of your life back that this, whatever disordered eating you were struggling with, whatever affliction, whatever diet culture messages like took away from you, you're going to gain that back.
Absolutely. I mean, you think back and when you're doing the actions of restriction or, your little habits, they're silly, but when you're really mentally on the other side, you think about it, like even just the waste of time, like, I can't believe I did that stuff. And I just wouldn't want to do that again.
And that was just like 12 weeks ago.
Yeah, I know. And I'm going to, like I said, like there's still so much more room for growth. And there's still, there's days that I'm going to have bad days. And like, don't get me wrong, those thoughts are there, but I can overpower them. And I know, well, what's the right choice? Well, I have to feel the fear and do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I think that's what it really means to overcome disordered eating too, and to overcome whatever challenges and obstacles you have in front. It doesn't mean that you don't have obstacles in front of you.
There's always hurdles,
but you can overcome them. And I think that that's what we've really done in the last 12 weeks is we didn't just snap our fingers and disordered eating thoughts went away. You learned how to overcome them, and you overcame one, and that gave you the power to overcome another, and then another, and then another. And so are there going to be days in your future where there's another roadblock, where there's another thought, where there's another like trigger or something that pops up? Yeah, it's going to be there. And you have the strength to overcome it.
And the next hurdle is probably going to be pregnancy. But you know what? Bring it on.
Bring it on. Get John in the room. Let's go. Yeah, it's good. I really wanted to bring up the weight gain stuff. Because like I definitely like this isn't like a weight gain program. It's not even necessarily an undernourished program. Like I've had people in the program that don't have the issues you had at all.
Right.
But, I think it's really is about learning how to fuel your body right and overcome the obstacles that are in front of you to get to that point of what right looks like. And I think that's really where you are now.
Yeah. And as much as I needed the physical, I really think that the modules and like the mental aspect helped me because like if I am having a physical issue, you can go back to one of those mental like mantras or one of the activities that goes through, well, what is it that you don't like? Well, mentally, how should you handle that? Yeah. So I think that's really where I needed it. Like, yes, physically I needed help, but I had to turn it mentally before I could help the physically.
And so did this program, because I know you're working with a therapist too, that you really like, but did this program help you with that mental piece?
Oh yeah. I mean, I honestly, when I saw my therapist the last time, I was like, I'm pretty sure it's been forever since I've seen you because I talk to you more on a daily basis than I see my therapist once every 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Or 5 weeks even. And because of the pandemic, it's been even more than that. So yeah. I think I've done more of it with you probably.
Yeah. And it's good because I think I just really realized that, people talk about their relationship with food a lot. And it's basically, what does that come down to? That comes down to like your mental like state of mind and your thoughts and your actions and your behaviors. And it's all about how you're perceiving food or your body. And so to make these decisions that we need to do to get the food on our plate and into our bellies to nourish our body physically, it starts with that mental piece of, are you accepting this food? Do you like this food? How do you feel? How do you feel about this food? So it's a lot of mental things to process that we dug deep into.
I know. I mean, food keeps you alive. So whether you're thinking about it or not, it is like the core of your life. So you're going to think about it regardless.
Yeah, it's a pretty important thing to figure out. Well, awesome, Sarah. Thank you for doing this. I don't know if you ever like really imagined yourself like being vocal or public or sharing your story like this, but I'm definitely proud of you for doing so because there are hundreds and thousands of other girls and women that resonate with your story and want to be where you are now someday. Do you have any final words of advice or just anything you'd like to say to somebody who might be struggling with disordered eating anywhere on the spectrum?
Just that no matter how many tears, how much money, and how much mental capacity you have to go through, it's so worth it. And I think the most mantra, like the mantra that really got me through this, and I've said it to you so many times already, is just accepting who you are. And I've accepted that I am a Sarah size Sarah. I'm nobody else. That really got me through it because I want to be me and I don't want to be somebody else.
I
So
love
it's time to like have people like just find yourself and allow it to happen. So
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Sarah. You're an inspiration. I'm so proud of your progress. Can't wait to see little baby Sarah in the future. Or Stefan, I don't know, another S name, boy or girl. So
thank
thank you for
you.
joining.